about twice as many women than men apparently have still yet to decide. So I think it's important to put some facts out there as to what difference the EU has made in women's lives in order to, I hope, persuade them that actually it's really in their interests for women at work to stay in the EU.
The campaign, not just I think from the Remain side, but the Labour In campaign as well, seems to be dominated by men, not women. Alan Johnson we see, Chucka, Jeremy Corbyn I suppose himself. Do you think that there is too much emphasis on, shall we say, some of the male big beasts getting involved in this campaign and we're not hearing enough women's voices?
Well, whenever something is important, of national significance, you find the men always shove their way to the front and grab the microphone. But half the people in this country who are going to be voting are women. And actually, they're entitled to hear the argument about how, if we were to leave the EU, it would undermine women's rights at work, and how actually, ironically, despite the fact that Europe is as male-dominated as our own governments have always been, Europe has been a strong friend to women at work.
So even before we were in the EU, we brought in an Equal Pay Act in this country. There's been legislation since then. There's been your own Equality Act. You don't need the EU in order to implement those things, do you? We
do need the EU because actually the EU has built on the rights like the Equal Pay Act and the Sex Discrimination Act and made them stronger and given more women rights. So quite often the EU directives, which for some people are regarded as very unpopular, but I think the directives which have helped back up women at work have been really important and positive. And they've said to the government, you've got your Equal Pay Act and your Sex Discrimination Act, but you've got to extend it to more women. You've got to extend it to pension schemes. You've got to extend it to part-time workers. Sometimes they've actually come in and underpinned rights we've already got.
And Norway's outside of the EU. It's got far better childcare, it's got far more women in Parliament. They don't need to be in the EU to guarantee women's rights.
This country, the UK, needs to be in the EU to protect women's rights, because it could be argued, and some do, that we are in a sort of political post-feminist nirvana where everybody agrees that feminist principles are the right one and that women should be protected at work. But I just don't believe that. You know, call me suspicious, but I would not trust my rights as a woman with Boris Johnson or Nigel Farage. I don't trust them on women's rights as far as I can throw them.
But it was UKIP that was at the forefront of the campaign on, for example, the tampon tax. They say Europe actually gets in the way of some of the things which women are demanding.
We should have made sanitary protection zero rated, and then we wouldn't have got into the issue at all about what level of VAT was on it. And had it not been an overwhelmingly male-dominated government and an overwhelmingly male-dominated parliament at the time, it would have been zero rated.
Harriet Harman, thanks very much.